You're listening to the ESO Network, your station for all things geek.
Hi, I'm Joe Heath.
I'm Toni Heath.
And this is the Watch-A-Thon of Rassilon presents the Watch-A-Thon of Zhaan.
You okay there, buddy?
I thought it was Zhaan.
It's been Zhaan this whole time.
It has. Today we're going to be talking about the first episode of the first season of Farscape, entitled Premiere, which just means it's the premiere episode. It has nothing to do with anything that happens in it. And that aired March 19th, 1999.
True facts!
So, first off, Watch-A-Thon of Zhaan is bad. She says, what was it?
You already forgotten,
Kahalan?
So you can't use it.
She says, thank Kahalan or something like that.
It's just the Watch-A-Thon of... It's just the Watch-A-Thon watches Farscape.
But...
The Watch-A-Thon of Farscape.
The Watch-A-Far of Scape. The Scape-A-Thon.
Stop trying to make it happen.
Scape-A-Thon's not terrible. If you have a better title, let us know. But yeah, we literally just watched it. We're like, why not? We got it set up. Let's go ahead and record this episode. I already kind of looked up some things. There's not a lot of like trivia on this episode. The show was originally titled Space Chase when it was in development.
Not a good title.
Not a good title. Okay, so we should probably do like a quick summary of what happened, what this episode was about. What was this episode about?
This episode is about a normal boy, Zhaan Crichton, normal scientist, NASA boy.
I was about to say normal genius scientist.
He's also very jacked for a scientist.
Scientists could be jacked.
They could be jacked. Normal boy, Crichton goes to space.
He gets...
where things get weird.
Yeah, he's...
And aliens fart helium.
This is a great summary. He's come up with a theory to basically use his like space shuttle to skim across Earth's gravitational pull, right? The atmosphere, to like slingshot it.
Yeah.
And
to go farther, faster.
Yeah, like skipping a stone, but across, instead of a like river, it's across the fucking atmosphere. And he gets shot through a wormhole and winds up in the middle of space. And on aboard a ship, a living ship.
He gets pulled aboard the ship
Yeah.
after murdering Grace's brother.
Grace is a peacekeeper. They keep peace in the galaxy, but they're bad. He's bad. He thinks that...
They're space cops. What?
Yeah. He thinks Crichton has killed his brother. The ship that he gets pulled aboard is Moya. It's a living ship. It used to be a prison ship, but the prisoners have overtaken the ship. They get the what is it? The collar.
The collar.
It's a something collar though. Control collar. They get to control the collar off, and then it's the ship of prisoners are now running the ship, and they have on board Kada Argo. They have Pata Zhaan. Did I say that right? Something like that.
I only remember Zhaan.
I said Zhaan. It's Zhaan. It's Zhaan. A priestess. They have Rigel, a little farting guy.
He's just
he used
a
to be
little
royalty.
gremlin.
And then there's...
bad Yoda.
Those are really the only 3 prisoners.
Yeah. On the whole ship, by the way.
It's huge. It's a huge ship.
It's a huge ship, and it was only transporting 3 prisoners.
And there's no one else aboard. And then now they have Crichton, and they pull in one of the Peacekeeper ships, which has a Peacekeeper on it named Aronson. And then they
all hate each other.
But they all sort of...
But they're going to be friends later.
They sort of team together. They get caught at some point, and then, like, Aronson has to, like... switch her allegiance from the Peacekeepers to them, but very tenuously. And Crichton is just befuddled and bewildered by all things because he's a human boy. And that's the premiere.
Just normal boy, Zhaan Crichton.
Normal boy, Zhaan Crichton. Okay, he's not normal though. He's it's such a like he's so stupid, but he's so smart. Like, I don't know. He, like, has, like, such, like, jock energy for someone who's, like, scribbling equations on a fucking floor to, you know what I mean? He's got, like, real Third Doctor energy.
He does.
We've seen the whole series and the follow-up miniseries. I've read all the comics. I don't know if you have.
No. I was worried about it just because, from what I remember from my last watch through, is that the show takes a while to get going. Mm-hmm. So I was like, I'm pumped, I'm gonna watch Farscape. And then I was like, oh yeah, but it's gonna be bad. That's really good. I mean, for a pilot. Solid pilot.
I don't think it's, like, the pilot's good, and I think, like, a couple of the following episodes are, like, where it starts to be like, that's too much. That's filler or whatever.
Yeah, I think, because part of the problem with, like, the first couple episodes or however long it is before it, like, really finds its footing is that it's trying very hard to be, like, an adult show, right? Mm-hmm. It's like, I know there are puppets, but in, like, a cool science way, in a cool sci-fi way, not in, like, a Sesame Street way, we promise.
I mean, the blue alien gets naked in this episode, so they can be like, look, there's a butt in this show. But this ain't for kids.
I'm saying because it's a pilot, I feel like it doesn't have time to do too much of that.
Yeah, it's got to establish all the plot stuff.
It's got to establish all these characters. It's got to establish the world. So it's so busy doing that, it's only got, like, 1 or 2 moments of, like, as an adult show for adults.
Most of it's centered around Zhaan, really.
Yeah.
And just her sexuality.
Being a sexy priest.
Yeah, Dargo being like, hey, you do the fourth sensation? And her doing that weird cheek thing with Crichton.
I assume that was the fourth sensation.
Probably.
And Rigel. And Rigel being gross. There's so much.
Yeah, but that Rigel being gross could be in a kid's show.
That's true.
Like, farting aliens? That's in Doctor Who.
That's true. I guess farting aliens is just a staple.
Like, there's nothing particularly adult about any of that. It is gross. He spits on Crichton for no reason. Not even like a derogatory way. He just randomly spits. I'd say the pilot mostly works. All of the characters feel like the characters. The only thing that I don't like, and I didn't like at the time, is Crace's motivation. Even Crace isn't bad.
No.
It's just the story makes no fucking sense. It's the thinnest, flimsiest fucking thing. Because what happens is Crichton appears, and then one of those Peacekeeper ships flies into his ship. His ship is just sitting there.
Right.
And it hits his ship and then flings off into an asteroid and explodes. And that had Crace's brother on it. And then Crace is all like, you killed my brother. Even though it's what everyone said. Even like other people around him.
Peacekeepers.
Are like, it was clearly an accident. Like, he didn't move. Your brother just flew right into him. And he's like, you rammed my brother's ship. No! Look at the fucking video! Anyway, it's like the dumbest motivation for your big bad. It's not rooted in anything.
Yeah.
Real. So, like, that's like the biggest misstep in the whole episode, I feel like. Like, you could have given Crace legit motivation.
And they do later. Crace becomes, like, a very interesting character much later on.
I even think, like, the sort of thing between him and Aaron's son in this episode makes sense.
Yeah.
Of, like, you were in contact with an alien, so you are disavowed, basically. Like, that's interesting. That makes logical sense. So it's, like, following the rules too much sort of thing. Mm-hmm. But, like, his revenge on Crichton makes no sense. But I don't know. How would you do it differently?
I mean, you could just anything to make Crichton more active in that situation.
Like, he does it in self-defense?
Yeah.
Yeah. Like, he's like, what the fuck? And then...
The thing is that
if his ship had moved at all...
The thing is, his ship isn't like a fighter pilot. Like, it's a...
Yeah.
It was just like, it's just a shuttle. So it's not like he even really could do anything.
He does have a little... Like, he can pilot it a little bit. Maybe if he had, like, done some evasive maneuvers that led to him crashing. Like the ship starts shooting at him, and he's like, what the hell? And he, like, does some evasive maneuvers... And that somehow causes Crace's brother's ship to, like, crash into the...
Yeah.
Like, that would have been something. But it's not... He's literally just sitting there in space.
Or even just wanting to, like, get this guy who is, like, an unknown. Right? You're like, this is a
Oh, yeah, it's an alien.
This is an alien with alien tech from a civilization we don't know anything about. We can't have that. Like, that's knowledge, that's information. That would even make more sense to me.
That's kind of what they do later on with our vengeful bad Scorpius. Is that Crichton has wormhole technology in his brain, and Scorpius wants it. But Crace is our big bad, and he makes no sense as a character. His motivation doesn't. But other than that, it's pretty good. The end. I really enjoyed watching it again. The thing that I like about Farscape is, like, and this is something that the pilot does a very good job of establishing. The character?
This is something that the premiere...
Do you think that's why they called it premiere instead of pilot?
Like, people are going to think he's the main character. Yeah, I think so. Something that it does a really good job of establishing is just the whole wide universe. I mean, it feels very big and wild and unknown.
Oh, I think one of the inspirations for the show was the cantina scene in Star Wars. And, like, what if that, but the whole thing.
The whole thing.
You know, it's just, like, all these weird aliens and, like, what's going on there and stuff. And explore that more than just...
Just kind of constantly not knowing what the fuck is going on. And I think that's what makes John Crichton such a good character. Is that he's unhinged.
Yeah.
He's
not quite as unhinged in this episode. But...
his situation is driving him slightly bonkers. And I've always really liked that about him.
He does it very well, too.
Yeah.
He's very funny, too. Like, he's very kind of understated in a lot of his... He gets occasionally shouty, but he's usually kind of, like, low-key.
There's a moment where Aaron says, you know, he's an alien from Earp, and he just mouths, Earp.
It's really good.
It's a really good reaction.
My goodness. They click, like, instantly.
There's also so many times where they were just like, there's no reason for both of you to be standing that close to each other. When he's taking off the handcuffs.
Yeah.
Still very close. And then when they're, like, piloting, very close.
And when she pins him to the ground, is there...
With her thighs.
Around his head.
That was a lot for me.
Oh, Boise. And when I was listing off the characters, I skipped Pilot. Pilot, interestingly, is voiced by the guy who plays Crace, the bad guy. So he gets to play a good character and a bad character. In both meanings of those words.
Yeah.
I like Pilot. Pilot and Rigel are the two puppet characters, main characters. And they were both designed specifically to have a guy that's really small, so it's clearly not a person in a suit. And a guy that's really big, so it's clearly not just a guy in a suit. So it's like both scales of puppetry.
Nice.
Tiny and huge. There's more than that in this episode. There's also the, I don't know that dude there.
Guy with the jaw that comes unhinged.
And he goes, yeah.
Yeah.
They're like trading with him or something.
Me too about the world seeming, you know, believably large. Is it's not like they just are like, all right, we've got like the two aliens on this thing. We've got the two big puppets and everybody else is people.
Mm.
There's all sorts of creatures and weirdos. Like, it's so good.
And you got Dargo, who's like a big Luxon warrior. He's got like alien dreadlocks. He's got like this big chin piece. It's really interesting hearing that guy outside of the show. Because in the show, he's got like this big, deep, gravelly voice. He's a warrior. And then when you hear him out of character, he's got like this high-pitched Australian voice. It's great. It sounds really goofy. You got Zhaan, who's a blue, bald alien lady. Apparently that makeup started having ill effects. And it's kind of why she left the show.
Oh, no.
And then you also have on the ship a bunch of little robots.
They're so cute!
I don't think they're named in this episode, but they are DRDs.
DRDs. And they all have numbers, by the way. And they're like distinct person.
I don't think they have. I think
one of them has a number.
Yeah, and this one Crichton gave to him because it's that what, like 1817 or whatever.
Yeah,
it's that overture thing. I think he just named it that. I think I could be wrong. It's been a while since I've seen it.
I just love them.
Do you think it's the one that he bandages in this episode?
Here's the thing about that too. There's like there is something about having this like big damn space hero, and then like one of his like defining moments in the pilot is like sitting down and fixing this little robot guy. I was like, yeah, that's so my jam.
There are 2 more characters in this episode that are minor characters that will somewhat become bigger characters later on. One of them as a different character twice. But there is DK.
DK comes back?
Yeah.
And more than just that one?
He comes back in a couple episodes.
Okay.
Or a few episodes. He comes back in both of those episodes. And then when they do eventually.
Okay.
Yeah.
That was our spoiler-free.
Yeah. If you've seen the show, you know what we're talking about. But yeah, DK is the one who helped come up with the theory and the Farscape project. And he's Crichton's best friend. He's a cool dude. You can tell because he has one earring.
One earring.
And then you also have Crichton's dad, who is also an astronaut. He's from something. I forget what. Crichton and Crichton's dad are the only people on the show that are American. Everybody else is like Australian or from New Zealand. What do you think about those characters? That scene it lasts both longer than I remembered and also is way quicker.
Yeah,
than a show would be.
There was a part of it watching it being like, oh wow, I didn't realize how much time they spent in the pilot not in space. Like establishing Crichton and his relationships on Earth. Which probably shouldn't be surprising to me. Like, part of the pilot is, like, leaving the normal world and going into this crazy place. So you would have to establish it. But I was still like, oh, wow. There's a lot of this. There's, like, 2 whole characters who aren't going to be very important. We're spending a lot of time on it.
I would say his dad still kind of remains... Like, he records that
That's true.
thing to his dad at the end, and I feel like that sticks around at least for a little while. Him sort of recording.
Well, you need it too to like his motivation for a long while is getting back home,
right?
So it helps that you've seen, some of it.
And see what he's going back to. You got to establish the world he's leaving before he leaves the world.
Yeah.
And that guy, who is he? His name is Kent McCord. He was on some show.
It just surprised me because it's like we were sitting down to watch Farscape, and then it was like dudes talking, and I was like, "Why are we in space?"
Oh yeah, he was on Adam 12. He played Jim Reed on Adam 12. So it's kind of stunt casting too. So it's like I feel like they did that on purpose. So you have like a somewhat big name actor, so that would be like, this guy's important, even though he's not. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It gives you like, it lets him be a little more, make a little more of an impact. So like, even so when they bring him back too, you'd be like, oh, that's his dad, because people know who he is. You know what I mean?
I gotcha. Yeah.
At least that's what I feel like they did it. Why they did it. Scenes in this episode are longer than I remembered them being. That whole scene with
between
Zhaan and Dargo
was so long. None of it was bad.
No.
But it was like, this is a pace that we don't have anymore.
And I also think it was very intentional. It's the first like substantial scene we have that Crichton's not in. Mm-hmm. So I feel like it's saying these characters are
just as important. This is an ensemble show, and yeah.
It's a pretty smart pilot. Other than the Christ bullshit.
I don't disagree. I was pleasantly surprised. I was like, oh man, there's a bit of a slog, I remember. But yeah, no, for a pilot, it was solid. Oh. And now I want to watch the show. I want to watch all of it, again, from start to finish. Let's go.
If you want that to happen, let us know. And also kick some money to the Patreon. I'd like to do it too. So far we've done 3 pilots. We've done Watch-A-Thon of Khan. We've done Walk With Me, and we've done this. So Star Trek, Taking a Hike, and Farscape. Out of those 3 so far, which one would you most like to continue?
It's a tough call for me between Walk With Me and Farscape.
Yeah.
I mean, because we just watched like the pilot, and I'm like pumped now. I'm like, God, I loved this show. I loved this show. And
it's less of an unknown factor like Star Trek would be?
Yeah. Yeah, no, there's like a part of me that, I just want to watch a comfort show. Mm-hmm. Watch something I know where like I know it and I love it. And But also I think the walking podcast could be really neat. Like I really like the idea of when we do the watch-alongs, when we watch them and we stream us watching so people can watch with us. I really like the idea of doing that, but for like a walk. Especially because, like I talked about in the pilot,
Yeah.
of like, it's a stupid thing you have to do for your stupid mental health. So, like, doing that in a way that is with people, I like the idea of a lot.
Yeah.
Also, I would like to just watch Farscape without having to do work about it afterwards.
This wasn't too much work.
No.
Actually, this is so far a very short episode. Actually, let's take a quick break for an ad, and then we'll be back for maybe some other stuff. Here's an ad.
Check out the Modern Musicology podcast, where each week we talk about things like
what makes a great drummer,
our favorite rock documentaries,
songs we love by artists we don't love,
our favorite concert memories,
songs that should have been singles,
and all of our favorite music from the 60s, 70s, 80s, 90s, and now.
Do not use Modern Musicology if you're allergic to it. Modern Musicology may produce itching, dizziness, vertigo, temporary blindness, or heart palpitations. Do not taunt Modern Musicology.
Ask your doctor about switching to Modern Musicology.
And we're back.
Welcome back.
So, is there anything else we need to say before we wrap this up? Do you have any, like, final thoughts?
Final thoughts?
Final thoughts.
Final thoughts.
Farscape is a good show, and
Yeah.
we should all watch it together.
Okay, so if someone watched this and they were like, yeah, that was okay,
Yeah.
but they're like, but yeah, I don't know if I need to watch more. What would you say? What would you tell them to get them to watch more? What would you be like? Okay, yes, this episode is fine, but this show, what would you say?
What would I say? Because, like, my immediate thing is to want to say something, like, spoilery, right? Of, like, okay, but it does all this weird shit. And then just give a couple of examples of the weird shit that Farscape does. And I think one of them would be like, okay, there's a version of the bad guy that lives in the good guy's head, and only he can see him, and his name is Harvey, and he starts very scary and ends kind of funny, and then there's a period of time where he's both. I mean, because I really do think it's once Scorpius shows up that it's like...
The show becomes the show.
Yeah.
I don't think it's the first great episode, but I do think it's when the show is the show.
Yeah.
I think...
You're like, okay, it knows it's full on found its footing. It's doing what it wants to do now. And even then they are misses. Even then they are Jeremiah Crichtons.
I'd say the first couple of good episodes, like, I think DNA Mad Scientist is pretty good. And then there's Human Reaction. I think Human Reaction is before Scorpius shows up.
Oh, you know what? I think you're right.
And the Human Reaction is probably the first great episode. So at least get to a Human Reaction, and then its spiritual successor won't get fooled again.
God, what a good... Can we just rewatch Farscape right now?
We just did. We watched the pilot.
Such a good...
for the premiere. It is. It's very good.
Let's rewatch the rest of it.
And there's a lot of stuff I don't remember about it, so it'd be interesting.
That is true. I talked about this being my comfort show. Actually, I didn't talk about it on the podcast. I talked about it in the watch-along.
Did you? I don't remember where you said it. Go ahead and say it again, just in case.
This was my comfort show in college because I had the most bootleg copy of the entire show from my mom. It was a Christmas gift she did not know.
I knew it was going to be bootlegged before it showed up because like your mom bought the whole series. That does not exist. It did not exist at that point. It was just those terrible 2 episodes a disc things because they were put out by an anime company that didn't know how to release season sets.
But I had the complete series, and it's what I would watch, which is what I would binge, like, alone in my dorm. I forgot why I was telling this story.
I got Toni into the show. I think we maybe watched the pilot together, but we were watching Buffy and Angel, and it was like, that's the one we're going to watch together.
I remember why. I haven't actually watched it since watching it in college, and so I have, like, all these very fond memories of it.
To be fair, we watched a couple of episodes with Christine when she was staying with us.
That's true,
we got Christine into Farscape.
That was like my mission for a while. Was that I was like, Christine needs to watch all of Farscape because it's a good show. And it's also like exactly the kind of thing that Christine would like. And I was right. And she did. But yeah, I haven't seen any since then. So like a rewatch would be very interesting. I mean, there are things that are like, you know, episodes that are like greatest episodes that like I remember. But then there's, you know, moments and stuff.
Crackers don't matter.
Yeah. But then there's moments and stuff that you don't, that you're like, oh. So I would love to rewatch it again.
I think there's like definitely some like later season stuff that I'm a little fuzzier on when it gets a little more hardcore serialized.
Oh yeah, it starts to have more of a plot.
Also, when they just start like swapping characters out, and then there's like this old woman, and then there's two different characters whose I feel like soul defining trait is that they're red. You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
But yeah, so I got you into Farscape. I got into Farscape from a friend of mine on the Douglas Adams Continuum who
It always comes back to the DAC.
that person also got me into Buffy and Angel too. So their name was Serenity Scape. So I got into Firefly first, then Buffy and Angel. And it was solely based on his recommendations. So, thank you, Serenity Scape. His name's Michael. I watched the whole thing. I got him off Netflix when Netflix was just DVDs. And it was that terrible 2 episodes a disc. And sometimes they weren't even in the correct order. So I'd have to get a disc, return it, get another disc, then go and get that first disc back. It was so freaking annoying. I was watching it with my parents and they dropped off pretty quickly. And I think that's solely because we couldn't binge it. Because we can only watch 2 episodes. And if you get a disc that has 2 episodes that are clunkers, I'm so glad that it's now streaming everywhere. So you can just binge it. So if there's a bad episode, you can get through it and then get to the point when the show just starts being good. But I stuck with it because I saw that there was something good there. I was like, that alien is farting helium.
What else do you want?
What else do you need? I will say, once the show gets going after this episode, there is a lot of stuff that's like the farting helium, but less fun.
That's true.
And it's like, we have all this lore. We have all this lore. And it's like, I don't care. It has nothing to do with anything. Oh, we're aliens and we're adult and we say fuck. They don't say fuck. They say frail. It tries too hard for a little bit before it settles down.
You know, like
shows.
Adults. Like growing up.
Like human beings. So that's it for us. Tune in next time and we'll be diving back into Doctor Who briefly. We're going to do the Richard E. Grant special. We're going to talk about the parody Curse of the Fatal Death, which is written by Stephen Moffat. And we're going to talk about Scream of the Shalka, the official Ninth Doctor reboot that then was decanonized when RTD came in. So we got those. And then we're going to jump back into pilots. We're going to do Blake 7, followed by a Q&A episode, followed by Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles episode, and then a Warehouse 13 episode, and then New Who. So that's what's in the future for the Watch-A-Thon brand. Oh, wait, also, follow us everywhere. I don't know, I used to have a spiel. I don't remember what the hell the spiel is. Do I have it in my notes?
The spiel.
Do I have a spiel in my notes? If you like this episode, check out more on WatchYourAssLine.com. You can also find our podcast, our Patreon, and more at Linktree/Watch-A-Thon. That's linktr.ee/Watch-A-Thon. And I want to give a special shout out to Vincent E.L. for providing us with our amazing theme song.
Thank you, Vince.
Check out more of their music at vincentel.bandcamp.com. I know it doesn't make sense in it's very Doctor Who themed for this episode about Farscape, but it's good, so listen to it. Tune in next time when we talk about Doctor Who again, so the theme song will make sense. Until next time, keep calm and Farscape.
Keep calm and be a Farscape.
Keep calm and get shot through a wormhole.
Goodbye, and I love you in a platonic, parasocial way.
Frail.
And there's life out here, Dad. Weird, amazing, psychotic life. And death in Technicolor.
This has been a broadcast of the ESO Network. Be part of the crew and help support our shows by donating to our ESO Patreon or by shopping for the TeePublic store, which can all be found at www.esonetwork.com. The ESO Network, your station for all things geek.